I think I saw Katie on Teams. Wait, I cannot hear anything.
No, that was me. Sorry,
Oh,
I
it's
was still
okay.
on mute.
I didn't realize that. I'm like, another thing for me to figure it out into.
Oh, it's just me. You're all good. Oh, there she is. Perfect. Oh, uh, okay, cool. Hey, Katie.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Yeah.
Sorry, I knew that, and then I went into the thing and
No, you are all good. There's four people in the waiting room. I'll go ahead and let them all in.
okay,
Um, it's recording, so I'll probably just jump in with the intro once they're in. Are you good to go for sharing screen and everything?
let me make sure. I'll send you the request now. Yeah, I just sent the request to share.
Gotcha. Okay. It should be good to go. That's how it worked with Andy last time.
Okay,
Alrighty. Good
thank
for me
you.
to let him in? Yeah.
Yep.
Alrighty. Hello, everybody. Glad you are all here. Welcome to our Early Years Initiative Storytelling Workshop. We're so happy to have you joining us today on the Early Learning Exchange, our new networking and collaborative platform providing a space for community leaders across Indiana to discuss, ideate, and address key issues and opportunities to promote early learning. In case anybody doesn't know me already, my name is Kathleen Russell. I'm part of the community engagement team here at Early Learning Indiana, and I'm so excited for us to dive into some storytelling today. Just a quick recap, as we mentioned in part one, the data workshop, part of our Early Years Initiative Collective. Oh, sorry, as part of our Early Years Initiative Collective, you have access to all the features on the exchange itself and this exclusive EYI space, which includes virtual workshops designed specifically for EYI organizations, just like the one we're in now, as well as your reporting office hours and EYI resources. As a quick reminder, moving forward, all of the Early Years Initiative announcements and notifications will take place on this online space. Before we get started, I just want to make a quick ask of you all. Make sure you're sharing your early years initiative work on the Exchange feed. You don't have to wait for us as Team Eli to post a question or a recent article. As you have successes or even questions that come up, definitely feel free to put them in there for members to react and respond. Alrighty, today's workshop is part two of the series, Storytelling. We hope you find these workshops beneficial and supportive to sharing your stories of the Early Years Initiative. Today we have Katie Bradley from our Early Learning Indiana's team. She's going to focus on how to best tell the story of your work for different audiences and purposes, both in general and with a focus on EYI. Welcome, Katie.
Hi, everybody. I am wondering if, since we have such a small group, if any of our participants would be willing to introduce yourselves and kind of share a little bit about the work that you're doing. It might help us as we go through these slides and kind of talk about the stories. So I know I'm putting you on the spot a little. Are they able to actually? Let me make sure that's
I think so. They should be
happening.
able to
Okay.
unmute themselves.
So if you are willing to get on and just share a little bit about who you are and the work that you're doing through EYI, I would love to hear it. I see Dawn, I see you're on the screen and on video. So if you don't mind, and then I'll just kind of go down the list if that's cool with you guys.
Sure. Hi, good morning. I'm Dawn Underwood, and I am in Johnson County, which is just south of Indianapolis. So for our EYI grant, we're doing so many initiatives, but we are trying to support programs that serve infants and toddlers through conscious discipline trainings and other curriculums, ensuring that they have research-based curriculums that they're using within their classrooms. We also do a lot of trainings for parents. We do that through baby circle times, mama meetups, even fatherhood engagement groups. And we are starting to work on the ages and stages. Um, questionnaires, I guess, is that I'm lacking the word. The ASQ. You
I
girls
know what
know
you're
what I
talking about,
you
but you
know
probably know more about it than I do. So ages
yes.
and stages I'm familiar with. I couldn't tell you anything beyond that though.
Yes, so we are really, our initiative is to get it out in the community so that families become aware of what their children, should be doing, if there's any delays, and making sure that we get them connected to the right resources. So there's lots of different things that we are using the grant funds for to reach families with children under 3 and teachers.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Okay, Kimberly, do you want to share next?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So I'm Kim Boynton. I am the Coalition Director of the Building Strong Brains Early Childhood Initiative in Elkhart County. And the initiative is to build a coalition of partners who are coming together around this early childhood space. Our EYI grant brought together 5 partners to look at ways to build or enhance that birth to 3 work that is happening in Elkhart County. And so we did some expansion of parent cafes with one of our partners who is now focusing on that birth to 3 family and bringing them together once a month in both English and Spanish, offering childcare, and they share food and then learn together. We launched Triple P for Baby, which is an online opportunity for families prenatally through the first 18 months of life. And it's really meant to provide an asynchronous way for families to kind of learn more about that transition to parenthood or what to expect in that first year. So parents move through modules at a pace that makes sense to them. We've added in a coaching piece so that as they're working through that, if they need connection to resources or they need just someone to walk alongside them, we can get them connected to what they need as they're learning those different things to expect. And so there's lots of modules around self-care and what we would expect a baby to do in that first year of life, and just that the changes that happen. We also launched, thanks to this grant, a platform called Lantern that was formerly known as Bright by Text. It is an app that parents can access based on their child's birth date. They can get targeted messaging around developmental milestones and brain development that we would expect for children from prenatal through age 5. We can also do localized messaging. So partners can share out things that are supporting parents in that age range. And then the last piece that 2 pieces that we're working on through this grant is our data indicators and building a platform that helps us see what those population indicators are. We're getting we have those programmatic outcomes, but we want to understand at a population level how we're reaching families. And then obviously our messaging. So how we're getting changing the narrative in our community around supporting and empowering children and families in this prenatal through age 5 space.
Awesome. Thank you so much. A lot of great work you guys are doing. Okay, I'm going to go to Cherish next, if you are available to speak. Oh, we can't hear you. And if you can't, it's totally fine too.
Okay, I can hear you now. What did
Okay,
you say? I'm so
perfect.
sorry.
Oh, no, I'm just asking if you wanted to share a little bit about your EYI work and what you have going on.
Sure. My name is Cherish Edwards. I'm the Executive Director of Center for Possibilities in Hobart, Indiana. We serve the special needs population up in Northwest Indiana. So we do have an adult day program, but what we got the grant for was our special needs preschool program. We run a developmental preschool that uses some peer models along with reaching the needs of the special needs population. We have a lot of students on the autism spectrum this year. We have a handful with chromosomal deletions. In the past, we've had kiddos with colostomies, feeding tubes, Down syndrome, Pura syndrome, Pompe disease, you name it, Aicardi syndrome. We will take them. We will educate ourselves as much as we can on their needs, work with the parents, get training and try to serve these kids that can't go to other preschool programs because their needs are more intensive and they need more individualized services than a traditional preschool can offer. And so with our grant money, we refigured our space and added a third classroom. We're small. Up until then, we had a 2s, 3s room and a 4s and 5s room. Now we have a 2-year-old room, a 3 and younger 4, and then an older 4 pre-K. Up until we added the classroom in January, we have always had a waiting list. We currently don't have a waiting list, so that's been nice. So that's kind of what we do. Like I said, we just try to fill in the gaps for the kids who are higher. Some of them are higher function. We do have some that are pretty low function, but they need more than just being at home with a nurse. Their families do want that interaction. They want them to socialize. But like I said, traditional preschool can't fill the needs. So we keep a smaller class size, usually 8 to 10 is our max with 2 staff. And then there's myself and my assistant director able to pop in and help out when needed and just try to provide them the highest quality start that they can have, pushing them to do the most they can while also respecting their limitations and meeting the needs of the family to provide some community. I think for special needs families, that's a pretty isolating experience often. So we do try to, like today, all of our families are at a playground together. We try to provide those opportunities for the parents to interact so they don't feel quite so alone.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing. Jill, did you want to go next?
Yes. So I worked for a developmental disability agency as well in Hendricks County in central Indiana. But we provide early intervention services through the children's program, Children's Services, and we provide some additional services in addition to early intervention through First Steps. And what we found is that First Steps provides a great service, but there's additional services that need to be done. So I've been a social worker and worked in the county and in the area for many, many years. And we feel like there were always supplemental services that could be used. And so we applied for the grant and we were able to provide where that gap was, and where First Steps provided a certain level, there were still families that needed services. And so we've been able to provide additional services to children who needed it for various reasons, who may not have received First Step services or who need additional services than what First Steps can do. We've been able to fill in that 3 to 4-year-old age gap when they've aged out of First Steps up until that age. We've also done some group time, which we call toddler time. And we've been able to have parents and children come in, and they have some wonderful activities. It's been so much fun. Themed activities with book time and crafts and food. It's been really well received. And then we've had a playground that we have built here at our facility. So we were able to have children come in here, and those who have special needs and who have other needs come in and do that. We had a little bit of capital improvements on our building with some of the funds that we had. And then we provide I work for Sycamore Services. So we named our program the Seedlings Program, which we really love because we worked so much over the years with Sycamore of talking about that sycamore tree. And then we've just built upon that. We will be moving. And so it's kind of a change for us, and we're going to be joining in with our agency's autism program. And so that brought on some new challenges for us, but it also gave us an opportunity to grow a little bit in that and bringing in some other opportunities that we're going to have. And we're going to have a little bit of changes that come with that, some of them more welcome than others, and a little bit of changes. So we're looking at how that's going to help us grow with our program, and maybe a little slight change in our scope of plan, but we're looking at many other opportunities within that to find ways to reach children, because we're going to be adding in a new population to our group. And so we're hoping to be able to do that. But we have really been able to reach out to so many children who still needed services in the community and who, for whatever reason, weren't receiving those or who needed additional supplemental services. And I think this is a great pilot that I think we're hopeful that we can show other agencies in the area that there are definitely needs for this, in addition to other early intervention services. So we're really keeping that. We're not huge. We're not seeing thousands, hundreds of kids, but we are making a difference in what we're doing. So we really feel like this is a great opportunity in our area. So thank you.
That's awesome. And that's what matters. Thank you for sharing. Okay. Kathleen, maybe keep me honest. Did I get everyone or did I miss anyone?
I think we just have Christine as our
Christine.
last participant.
And Christine, were you able to share? If
Yeah,
not,
good morning.
okay.
Sorry, my camera, I just don't have camera today, but
You are good with it. You don't need to.
thank you. For our early years project, I'm down in Columbus, just south of 2 counties south of Indianapolis. And we are working with family childcare homes, primarily Spanish speaking providers or programs serving diverse and Spanish speaking families. And with each of these programs, we're providing coaching and utilizing the environmental rating skills to build up both their environments, their materials, and instruction for programs that are either newly licensed, maybe they're new program altogether and not quite licensed yet, and or looking to move on paths to quality from level 1 or 2 to a 3 or 4. So looking to really make some moves. We're working with about 5 programs. We're starting with 3, and then we'll be adding 2 more later in the year. So just providing that individualized coaching and support to help understand the tool, understand environments with young children, and really building on the great work that they're already doing.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I'm just thank you all for taking the time to sit with me today. It's really amazing to hear about the work that you all do every day. And that's kind of what brought us here, right? So my name's Katie Bradley. I serve as the Vice President of Communication and Marketing for Early Learning Indiana. And I was asked here today to talk to you guys about storytelling. And I first wanted to start, let me see if I'm working my screen correctly first. I'm not moving my slides, so. Let's see here. Yeah. I don't know if I'm frozen. Let me stop sharing and then reshare. Sorry, guys.
You're all good. I was gonna say you yourself are good. I don't know about the screen
Yeah,
sharing
it's
though.
just not moving past my first screen, so I don't know. I don't usually use Zoom, so I'm wondering if that's a me error, but. Okay, there we go.
Perfect.
So first, just wanted to start by talking about kind of what I do, why I'm here. Part of what we're working to do is to make sure we're lifting up these stories of the great work that you guys are doing, and just wanted to first center it around why we started the Early Years Initiative and what we're trying to do. And you're all very well versed on what this is, so I won't spend a lot of time on this, but we know that a child's brain develops fastest between birth and 3, and that these experiences and relationship during these years shape all of their future learning. So you're working with families and children at the most critical times in their lives, and we want to make sure we are sharing out the importance of that time and the impact of the work that you're doing for those children. And part of that is helping each of you identify the great stories that live within the work that you're doing. So stories are our superpower. Why are they our superpower? Because that's what people remember. We can share a lot of facts and stats about the work that we do every day, but when you tell that story about one mother maybe struggling to get access to care and not able to work, that's going to speak to people in a completely different way than talking about the fact that you added 5 seats, right? The stories illustrate the impact of our work, so they come alongside all of that work that you're doing, and they show people what we're really making a difference, and then they can help connect our communities, bring them together to rally around our youngest learners. So first, I'm going to talk about the ingredients for a great story, and I'll start by saying too, please stop me at any time if you have any questions or feedback. I'm happy to keep this informal. The key ingredients for a story are a real person or a family. So like I said, we can talk a lot about the amazing work that we're doing. We can talk about the 500 families that we're serving, and that's important when we can tie it to one family's experience and the difference that it made in their life. That can really speak to people in a completely new and deeper way. It can help create a relatability with people. So, you know, you might come from a completely different place or completely different background, but you've experienced the same type of parenting challenge that they're experiencing now, or you've experienced concerns over developmental delays with your child, or trying to understand where they should be at that age. And it can create that empathy and that connection with those people. And then that goes to the emotional connection that comes with that. It can motivate the support. It can break down those barriers, like I said, with different groups, and help people really come together around the work that we're doing, the work that you're doing, and support it in their neighborhood with their families. It's just a great connector of all people. So wanted to start by just reiterating the importance of why we tell stories and why they matter within this work that we're doing. And as you see in your, request for your UII grants, the data matters, right? We want to show, the data can show how many we're doing, the stories show how deeply. So I'm going to give you just a really quick example of what that can look like. And you'll see that both sides of this matter, and both of them give context to the other. So we can talk about how 92% of children in our toddler program met their age-specific social emotional benchmarks this year. That's amazing. That tells people that your program is successful, that it's working for the children that you're serving. And people like to hear that data. You can deepen that with a specific story about Aiden and talk about his experience and how the work that you did changed the way he acted, reacted, spent time with his peers, and made a difference. And that just deepens that ability to understand why the work matters and how it impacts this one child, how it impacts this one classroom. So now we're going to talk about where stories are hiding, because we all have lots of stories worth telling. And did I skip? Hold on, sorry. Yeah, okay. We have lots of stories worth telling, and I guess I just want to think about where we can find those stories and how we can build them into the reports and the work that we do. Obviously, the biggest way to find those stories is in those interactions with children and families. So every day when you're talking to them and they're sharing their experiences with your program, or they're sharing the impact that your program had on them, those are stories that can be shared and can really illustrate the impact of the work that you're doing. I know for some of you, you probably aren't maybe in connection with the children and families on the daily basis. That's where your staff and your teachers really can come in and be that person that shares the impact they're seeing, shares the impact it's had on their work. And we're going to go through some questions later on that can help jog great stories, but those are areas where we can go and dive in and really find the meat of what difference the work you're doing is making. And then we've got, your family feedback that can be in the daily interactions, but it can also be in surveys that you send out, or maybe it's a thank you note when someone graduates from your program, speaking to why the work that they're doing matters, or why the work that you did mattered to them, how it impacted their experience with their child or their child's ability to start kindergarten, or preschool in this case. And then special milestones. So this is just to think about milestones as a way to give you the opportunity for storytelling. Maybe that's with your donors or with your families, or even pitching something to your local press. Like if you have a ribbon cutting is a really easy, like obvious experience of that's a great milestone to share out and to celebrate, but it could also be that first family that completes the program, or when you've served 100 children or completed 100 ASQ surveys. So you can use those data points and those special milestones to kick off the story, and then really pull through one person's experience to share how it impacted things. And this is where I just want to talk a little bit about thinking about the questions that you're asking of your team members, maybe in your families, to draw out the stories. For team members, what are you most proud of? I think you might get something that they're not going to share on the daily. They're maybe coming to you with the challenges that they're having and how can we fix this? And we need to do this differently, and that makes sense and needs to happen. But also taking that moment to say, like, what are you most proud of this week? Or what's one moment that made you smile? Can kind of give them a moment to think about the interactions that they're having with the groups or the people that you serve, and how it's impacted the work that they're doing. Also, what do you want others to understand or take away from the work you're doing? I think that helps them frame their own personal mission and vision of what they're doing, and that can help speak to that bigger impact. When it comes to families, depending on what it is, it could be like, why'd you decide to participate in this program? It can give you the background and the understanding of the struggles that they were experiencing prior to coming into the program. And then, or also just speak to the challenges that families currently face in this environment. What's changed for you and your family in this experience can be a really great example of the impact that your work is having on families, and it can show that full circle moment. So we can talk about how many families we got into the program, how many families graduated, but when you've had someone go through something, complete it, and come out on the other end, they might be more open and willing to speak about the struggle that they had and where they landed after the case. So now I want to talk about, look at a real story that we had. This is one of the stories that we've shared for and this is going to be an interactive section. But this is where I'm going to give you a little breakdown before you read this of what this program is and what it does. So I'm going to read for a second. So this is Vanderburgh County's Pre-to-3 program aims to reduce infant mortality by offering long-term support for families, providing free home visits for families from pregnancy until the baby turns 3 years old. For many families, it's a lifeline to support services, education, and resources, and a connection to someone who cares. Last year, the Foundation for Better Health, a health department partner, utilized Early Years Initiative grant funding to expand the program to more families in need. So, the team currently serves 300 clients in the community, pairing each family with a dedicated community health worker. So now let's read about Lakeisha Roach and what she notice in the program, the family that stuck with her, the mom that made a difference to the work that she's doing. I'm not going to read it out loud, but if you guys just want to read the quote, I'm going to ask a few questions about this, and you can put it in the chat or just come off mute. Oh, shoot. I can't see the chat. Sorry.
I can keep an eye on the chat and read off the
Okay.
questions if that's helpful.
Okay. So, first question about this. What do you think that this anecdote about this mom adds to the information that I shared? I can answer if you guys don't want to.
I can answer to get
Yeah.
us started. I think it brings the realness of the program and gives a real person's perspective on it, and like in lieu of data points, which are really important. But that main thing that we're drawn to naturally is hearing someone's story and
Yep.
making them a real person that we're reading about and how it's affected them.
That was one of the points I would have made, Kathleen. Thank you. The other two that I would say is that it shows change, real change that was made possible because of the work that they did. So we saw someone experience real change and have a positive impact in their life. And then for me, that it creates an emotional reaction, right? It directly ties to the impact of the program, and it really speaks to what the organization is doing and why it matters. So it's important to know that they're serving 300 families. That's amazing. Putting one face to one name really allows for us to see that's 300. You can times that by 300, and that's the impact that it could have on your local community. Now, can AI help us with this? So I don't know. I guess I pause here to just say, do we feel like as I'm going through these stories and storytelling and why it matters and all of this for the group, is this something that you feel like we have all the stories, we know everything going on, and we know how to tell the stories? We just don't have time to tell them. Is it a matter of, I guess, could you guys maybe anyone share a little bit about that aspect of your work, and when you're thinking through sharing impact, what role does storytelling play right now?
Hi, I'll share with
Thank
you.
you.
I think that this is just a matter of time. I mean, there's lots of stories, but I guess finding the time to develop the story and figuring out where and how I'm going to share it. And it just seems to be one of those things that gets procrastinated, quite honestly,
Sure,
and
yeah.
just not having the time, but understanding the value, but again, juggling a lot.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay.
I would add one additional thing. Trying to figure out how to collect the stories. So people have stories in the moment, and what's the best way to collect those in the moment when we might not be sitting with the person who has the story. And so we do some collective storytelling opportunities, but I think in the moment, if we could collect those in some way, and we're still trying to figure out how to do that effectively.
Yeah, that can always be a challenge. Okay. All right. I'm going to show an example of just trying to think through the types of stories that you can tell based on what you're going through. And I just did a really general example based on access to say, I used Copilot for this, but you can use ChatGPT, those types of things. There's different ways that you can use AI to help you. This is just one more to find the stories that you want to tell and where you can tell them. But we can talk about other examples as well, and kind of that collective storytelling, I think, will be a part of later in the presentation as well that we can talk about. So for this one, really the prompt that we gave it was we added seats. So because of a grant, we were able to add seats to our center. How can we illustrate the work? And I just asked it, give me 5 story ideas. And then I'm showing you what it gave me. So it could be one where it's following one family, and how that access to that seat had an impact in their for their family. The ripple effect for the community, so how adding more seats reduces those childhood deserts, contributes to the local economies. Probably something like that would be maybe a story that Eli would take on to talk about that broader community. I think looking at your educators or your people that are doing the work is also a great way to think about storytelling. And to your point of, how do we collect all these stories? It can be really difficult, but maybe it's telling that story through the eyes of that social worker or person that's doing that, the home visits or the work on the ground. And it's just talking to them about why they got into the work that they got into, why it matters to them, and what they've seen in the people that they've served. And it's not they're that specific person, they're that face that you're giving to the work, but they can share anecdotes that you're not having to you always would want to give consent, obviously, if you're sharing any information, identifying information about someone or their names or that type of thing. But if you're talking about one of your employees, it could just be, stories that they've heard through the work that they've done without any identifiers of the people, those types of things. So I won't read all of them, but just kind of, it gives you 5 examples. Maybe you're not going to do all 5, obviously, but maybe it's just going to spark something for you. So if you're sitting with the work that you're doing and you're thinking, I'm putting together this report for the Early Years Initiative, and I know I have to give these data points, and I know that we're doing this really amazing work. What's a great way to talk about the work that we're doing that would help illustrate the impact of it? And these can maybe just spark some ideas of how you can, what to look for, what would be the most impactful story that you can tell. And then maybe rather than trying to gather 6 stories of different people's experiences, you can say, hey, I want one really good one, and we're going to focus on this one and really lean into talking about this person's experience. And this kind of speaks to, Kim, what you were talking about with how do we collect them and get that collective. So I would challenge you all to think about, and you probably already do much of this, but building a story culture within your organization. So this can be as simple as saying hey, team members, I know you're really busy. Weekly, if you could just think through one great experience you had this week. This is where we could even go back to those questions we talked about with what we're asking our team members. And I'm trying to find those questions really quick, but tell me, if on a weekly basis you have them shoot you a quick email that says what were you most proud of this week? Or maybe it's monthly, it doesn't have to be weekly. You don't want to add to their already overwhelming plates, but just thinking through, are there ways that I can add collecting these types of stories into the work that we're already doing every day? So that could also be in your regularly scheduled meetings, that you start out with a purpose-driven story and you assign someone each month or each week. Hey, it's your week to tell the story, the impact story, it's your week, and then document those so that you can pull them out for social media, for reports, for sharing in your newsletter with your donors, depending on the different ways that you are. I think one thing to think about in this too is that you don't have to get 12 different stories for each of the channels that you're reaching out to people. You can really maximize a great story and share it with these different groups. You want to just get it to as many people as you can. It's not quality over, it's not quantity over quality in these instances. And then lastly, just thinking about how you can seek out those stories from families and participants. So you were talking about the struggle of like sounds like you have some collective storytelling opportunities that you put together, Kim. Another thing could be just thinking about if you are surveying people that are a part of your programs, is there a question that you can add about sharing their experience? Would they be interested in sharing it publicly? Would they be interested in sharing, like just asking certain questions, back to those questions we asked earlier, maybe adding one of those into the questions that you ask as a part of your survey. So part of it, I think, can be building it into things that you've already done, not adding to your plate, not adding more things that you need to do for people, but like, what are we already doing where we can just add this aspect of storytelling? And I think in each of these instances, it serves dual purposes, because when you're asking them to share regularly in a meeting about something that they're proud of or an experience that they had with one of the people you're serving, it also is drawing them back to their purpose, reminding them that the work they do matters and that it makes an impact. So just one idea of something that you can do to build the culture. And then this goes to kind of where we would want to share them, what kind of stories you want to share. If you have social channels, this is a great place to celebrate the work. It doesn't have to be a 1,000 word story, in-depth story about a family in your program. It can be a quote from them answering the question of the impact that how they feel at the end of the program versus the beginning, or a question of how do you think others could benefit from this type of experience. So think about that. The testimonials, I think, across the board are a really great and strong way to pull in the storytelling without having to overcommit a huge amount of time to it, because you're identifying a person, you're giving a face to a name, and you're quickly showing people the impact that it had on that one person. So you can think about that for newsletters, you can use that in your newsletter, you can put that on your social channels, those types of things are just great ways to share your stories. And then we talked about this a little earlier, but those milestones, that can be something where you consider sharing that with your local media if that's something you're looking to do or get. It can also just be a great way to spark a story on a post on social media, or an email from your executive director talking about like, hey, we hit this major milestone today. This is why it matters to the people that we serve. This is the impact that you're having by being a part of this organization or giving to this organization, or that type of thing. So there's just some quick hits on things that can work for you. And then because this is we're about to get into the EYI, I think grant reporting Kathleen, is it in July that it's happening? Yeah.
Yep, due July 15th.
It's kind of just reiterates some things to consider to help illustrate the real world impact that your work is doing for children, families, and communities. I know there's some specific questions around narrative and storytelling within that report. And these are just a few things to think about as you're filling out that report. And these are things that we've talked about throughout this. So it's start with that real person or the family when you can. That is a great way to show the work that you're doing, show progress through a challenge or change. So it's okay to talk about the things that were challenging in the work that you're doing, and how did you work through that? How did you come out the other side? And also, how did community partners help you? That type of thing, just sharing work around that, including voices from the field. Find my for this one. Yeah, so just making sure that you're bringing in the voice of the people who are doing the work in your organization, sharing their perspectives and experiences on what's happening, and then matching those stories to outcomes. So it's great to share what someone's doing. It's also great to tie that to the data that you're sharing as well. So when you're talking about the number of families you serve. This is one family's experience. When you're talking about the number of families who gained access, or like the percentage of who gained access to resources, talking through, showing how that directly can impact kindergarten readiness or different things like that. And then using visuals when possible. Kathleen, I can have you weigh in here, but I know we love to have photos. We love to see just the different ways that the work that you're doing impacts things. So if you're snapping photos at different events that you have, or if you do have a great story and someone's willing to share a picture, those always really help to just put a face to a name and help people really get excited about the work that you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. On the report, just to follow up real
Yes.
quick, there is a portion where you can share different documents, including pictures. I know that a lot of people do work where obviously photographs aren't always easy to share, but even
Yeah.
pictures of the space, if it's a new
Yeah.
program or updates to the program, if it's pictures of a parent group that you're organizing that meets, anything to help tell the story is just appreciated. And it also, like,
Yeah.
selfishly, I like to see
Oh,
the
yeah.
the people that are being impacted positively by the project.
Yeah. Even like if like the people that we work with, like the people doing the work, getting pictures of them if you can't get, because yeah, some of these are sensitive situations or the families don't want pictures, and that's totally fine. But even thinking through the people doing the work, or when you're having a staff gathering that speaks to the work that you're doing, things like that can be great to share as well. Thanks, Kathleen. And then just a final reminder that your work is worth sharing. I know it's, especially being in the work that you're doing and the space that you're in a not-for-profit, there is never not a million things to do. Everything, the actual work that you're doing is so important every day and is making an impact in the communities you serve. And it's easy to put the storytelling on the back burner because it is the extra thing. It's like, well, that's not the thing that's actually helping the family, but it does. And it's important that, one, you understand, like that you understand that every day you're changing lives, and that we want to make sure everyone else understands that as well, and that the work that you're doing is making an impact. And when we share those stories, it can help others make changes, change perspectives, think through things differently, find out about a resource that they didn't know could be available to them. So I just really want to iterate that I'm so thankful for the work that you all are doing, and we really want to be able to tell stories about the work that you're doing. So you don't have to start with like, yes, we're going to collect one story a week for the next year, and also add it to every single meeting that we have, and we'll have 365 stories for 365 days in the year next year. Start small, think about what's one story in the next month that can really speak to the impact of the work that you're doing, and think about how that you can incorporate that into the channels that you have, how you can share that with others. Like I said, part of the work that I do is sharing that broader perspective of that broader work of what the EYI years are doing. So if you have something that you think would be a great story, please feel free to send it my way. I would love to. Everything that you've shared throughout this was really great work, and if you have something you think, oh, this would be maybe be a good story to tell to a broader audience, I would love for you to share it with me too. That's part of why we want those stories in the report, is Kathleen and Mead and Natalie are combing through those, and they're sharing with us different stories to tell within our EYI channels, like on our website, with the Lilly Endowment, to speak to the impact that the money they're giving is having on people. And then also to think through, we share those on social channels as well. So we would love to partner with any of you on storytelling, especially knowing how much you have on your plate. If there's something you think like, hey, I think this would be a good story, we don't have time to do it, please send an email and say, let us know about it. We would be happy to work with you to try to tell some of those stories in the next year. We're in this section of the Early Years Initiative where we're really starting to see the work come to life. We're seeing the impact of the programs that have been sponsored by this, and we want to make sure that we are beating that drum and letting people know about what you're doing to make an impact on children under 3 in the state. I'll pause there for questions. I didn't have a question slide, but I do welcome questions.
I also did just want to piggyback off of that. If you
Yeah.
have stories to share, love hearing of them by email. Like, it doesn't have to wait for reporting time. And like we said at the start of the workshop, definitely feel free to post them in the exchange too, general exchange or EYI space. We would just love to be able to keep seeing those stories as they're happening, not necessarily just every 6 months. We're happy to see them all times.
Yeah. Okay, we've got one question. That's a great point. And
Mhm.
yeah, that we shared in the exchange. So when you are putting up a social post for your own social channels, think about, oh, could I put this in the exchange? Would this help other community partners? Think about this parenting challenge or this literacy challenge differently. And then Jill, you asked if we share pictures, are these also shared by Early Learning on a wider level? They could be, but we would ask permission.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I just
if
want to make sure, like, if we shared them and we didn't want them, like it would just be for the report. So I feel like I could ask a parent, is it okay if I share that in the report? I wouldn't want it posted anywhere else.
Yes. I would say
Katie?
though, I would state that when you put it in there, just to make sure. I mean, we typically, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but we would check before putting it anywhere.
We wouldn't put them on social media without having 100% confirmation that we can, or if like children faces are covered or looking elsewhere. The only thing that we look to use in a quick turnaround is for our own report to the Lilly Endowment. And we do still follow those parameters. So I would just if it's just for the report, kind of like state it, mention it, so we know not to pick it up. And again, it's not like we're going to put 100 pictures on our own report, but we like to pick a handful just to have pictures in there embedded as well.
I mean, 'cause that's been, somewhat limited on how much we share, just because we're talking, some families just don't want their child's picture shared on a wider level. And so it's limited on how many pictures we take of some of our activities, just to make sure that they don't get out any further. And I completely agree. I don't share my own grandchildren on social media. That's my daughter's son-in-law's preference. And so I don't share their picture that way. And I don't want to do that to anybody else without, express permission. So just making sure.
Yeah, I know for our day early learning centers, we have forms that they fill out. And if something like that could be helpful, we could think about maybe having something available for people. If you wanted to have something just explicit as you're doing it. So maybe we can talk about that as well. I hadn't thought about that angle with as we share these. Thank you, Jill.
And we do have groups that share pictures that but you cannot see children faces. Like often we do that for daily learning as well. So I know that Sycamore might be a different type of setting, but let's say there's a play group or a parenthood night, and you can see that there's children and parents, but at least the children are not necessarily facing the camera. So that kind of protects the face of it. So there's always options, and we are not requiring organizations to submit pictures if it just doesn't work for the work that you're doing.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Anything else from the group? All right, 5 minutes.
Just want to say thank you, Katie, again for walking us through how to tell the stories of the Early Years Initiative and the broader work in general as well. I know we have a few minutes left. If you all have any other questions, definitely feel free to pop them in the chat. But also, we are available by the exchange, and Marini, Natalie, and I are also available always by email with any project-related questions or just general questions as well.
Thank you, Kathleen. Thank you, everybody, for joining, and thank you for the work that you do.
Thank you, everybody. Oh, and the recording of the workshop should be up on the resources page on the EUII space on the Early Learning Exchange in the coming days. Right. There are no other questions. I will go ahead and end it, but thank you everybody again and hope you all have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. Bye.